I stood in the kitchen, staring at the neatly wrapped box on the counter. A silver ribbon. A deep blue wrapping paper, her favorite color. Inside was a bracelet, custom-made, with an engraving on the inside. 7 years, forever to go. It sat there, untouched, because she never came home. The clock on the wall mocked me, ticking away each passing second. 7 p.m., 9 p.m., midnight. No calls, no texts. By 1 a.m. I wasn't angry yet. Not really. More confused. Something had to be wrong. An accident? Her phone dead? Some emergency? Because what kind of wife forgets her own anniversary and just disappears? I checked my phone again. Still nothing. Then, at 2:34 a.m., the front door clicked open, and there she was. Madison strolled in like she didn't just vanish for hours. A lazy, satisfied smile on her lips, hair slightly out of place, wearing a dress I hadn't seen her leave in. The smell hit me first, faint but unmistakable. Expensive cologne. Not hers. Not mine. She froze when she saw me standing there, her eyes flicking to the box on the counter. I could see the wheels turning in her head, the slow realization that I had been waiting. "Babe, what are you doing up?" she asked, voice too casual. I didn't answer. I just stared. My silence made her shift uncomfortably, adjusting the strap of her dress like she could pull it back into place, like she could erase whatever had already happened tonight. Then she laughed. A small, breathy thing. "Oh my God, did you seriously wait up for me?" I still didn't speak, because I was studying her. The way her pupils were slightly blown. The slight flush on her skin. The way she swayed, just a little. Not drunk, no. Something else. Something worse. She ran a hand through her hair. "Listen, Aya, where were you?" It came out cold. Sharper than I intended. She hesitated for half a second, just a fraction too long. A trained liar would have hidden it better. But Madison? She wasn't prepared for this. With Claire. I let the words hang there. Let her feel the weight of them. Then, slowly, deliberately, I reached for my phone on the counter, unlocked it, and held up the screen. A text conversation with Claire. "Me, hey, is Maddie with you?" She's not answering. "Claire, what?" "No, haven't seen her since last week." Madison's expression didn't change at first. But I saw it, the flicker of panic behind her eyes. The split-second calculation of whether to double down or backtrack. I leaned against the counter. "Want to try again?" She let out a breathy laugh. Forced. "Wow. Okay. Are you, like, interrogating me right now?" I said nothing. She rolled her eyes. "I was with Claire. Maybe she forgot. We were bar hopping." Jesus, do I need a permission slip now? Lie. And she knew I knew. I reached into my pocket and pulled out something small. Something delicate. Something that didn't belong to me. A hotel key card. The color drained from her face. I turned it over in my fingers, feeling the weight of it. "Found this in the laundry," I said casually. "Neat little souvenir. I don't remember staying at the Hilton, do you?" Silence. Then she laughed. Actually laughed. A sharp, mean thing. "Wow. You're really pulling out all the stops, huh? Snooping through my stuff now." I placed the key card on the counter next to the untouched gift box. "Anything you want to tell me?" I asked. Her mouth opened. Then closed. Then, instead of answering, she turned away, walking toward the hallway. "You know what? I'm too tired for this," she muttered. And that was it. No explanation. No excuse. No attempt to lie her way out anymore. She was done pretending. I didn't move. Didn't speak. Just watched as Madison turned her back on me, walking away like this was nothing more than an annoying inconvenience. Like I was the one being unreasonable. Like I was some jealous, overreacting husband and not a man who just caught his wife sneaking in at 2:34 a.m. with a hotel key card she couldn't explain. I let her take exactly 3 steps before I said, "Madison." She stopped. Didn't turn around. Didn't speak. But I saw it. The way her shoulders tensed. The way her breath hitched just slightly. She knew. She knew this wasn't something she could just ignore into non-existence. Slowly, she turned, arms crossing over her chest. What? No more faking. No more pretending. She wasn't even trying to play innocent anymore. I picked up the hotel key card again, holding it between my fingers. "You want to tell me who he is?" A beat of silence. Then she scoffed, shaking her head like I was a complete idiot. "Oh my God. Are you serious right now?" "Dead serious." She rolled her eyes. "You're being dramatic." I let out a small laugh. No humor, just disbelief. "Dramatic," I repeated. "You disappear on our anniversary. Lie about where you were. Come home smelling like someone else, and I'm being dramatic?" She sighed, rubbing her temples like she was the victim in all this. Like I was exhausting her. You always do this, she muttered. Something inside me snapped. I took a step closer. Do what, Madison? My voice was low, controlled. Catch you in a lie? She didn't answer. Or do you mean I always expect basic respect? Maybe honesty? Is that what's so exhausting for you? Still, nothing. Just that infuriating, defiant silence. Then finally she let out a breath, shaking her head. You know what? Fine. You want the truth. She threw up her hands. Yes. I was with someone else. There. Happy? Happy? Happy. The sheer audacity of that word nearly made me laugh. But instead I just stood there, feeling the weight of it settle over me. I thought I was ready to hear it. Thought I had already accepted it the moment she walked through that door smelling like betrayal. But hearing her say it, hearing the complete lack of remorse in her voice, that was something else entirely. Wow, I said quietly. Not anger. Not even sadness. Just pure, unfiltered disbelief. That's it? That's all you have to say? She shrugged. Shrugged. Like this was some minor inconvenience. I mean, what do you want me to say? You already made up your mind, didn't you? So what's the point? The point? I repeated. Madison, the point is you cheated on me. On our anniversary. She let out a short laugh. Oh, don't act like you care about anniversaries. You barely even, I cut her off. Don't, I said sharply. Don't you dare try to twist this around on me. A flicker of something crossed her face. Annoyance. Frustration. But not guilt. Not regret. Then finally she said the one thing I wasn't expecting. I don't love you anymore. The words hit harder than the confession. Harder than the lies. Harder than anything else she could have possibly said. Because for the first time I realized this wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was deliberate. She wanted this. And she didn't even care enough to hide it. I stood there, staring at her, as her words hung in the air like a loaded gun. I don't love you anymore. That was it. That was the whole explanation. No apology, no guilt, no attempt to soften the blow. Just those 5 words, delivered with the kind of casual cruelty that only comes from someone who has already moved on. My heart should have been pounding. My hands should have been shaking. But all I felt was stillness. A quiet, eerie kind of stillness. Like the moment right before a storm tears the sky open. I nodded slowly. Okay. That was all I said. Madison's eyebrows twitched. She hadn't expected that. She wanted a reaction. Anger, heartbreak, shouting, begging. She wanted drama. Something to justify what she'd done. Something to make herself feel like the victim in all this. But I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. Okay? She echoed, eyes narrowing. I picked up the hotel key card again, flipping it between my fingers like it was just some meaningless object, not a physical representation of my wife's betrayal. So, who is he? Her expression didn't change, but something shifted in her posture. A flicker of hesitation. She wasn't expecting me to ask that. I don't owe you details, she said. I smiled. A small, cold thing. Oh, but you do. She sighed, exasperated. It doesn't matter. It matters to me. She let out a sharp laugh. Why? You want to go fight for my honor? Challenge him to a duel. She shook her head, lips curled in amusement. You're not that guy, babe. Let it go. Babe. She still had the audacity to call me that. I placed the key card back on the counter with a quiet click. I'm not letting anything go until you tell me who he is. She exhaled through her nose, looking at me like I was some stubborn child refusing to accept bedtime. Then, with zero hesitation, zero shame, she said his name. And because I knew him. Of course I knew him. The realization hit like a fist to the stomach, like a cruel joke I wasn't in on. My brain scrambled to reject it, to look for some way to deny what I had just heard. But there was nothing to grab onto, just cold, merciless truth. It wasn't a stranger. It wasn't some random guy from a bar. It was someone I trusted. Someone who had been in my home. Sat at my table. Shook my hand. And suddenly I understood everything. The late nights, the secretive smiles, the way she always seemed just a little too eager to check her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. It was never just work. It was never just girls' night. It had been him all along. I looked at her, searching for something, remorse, guilt, even just a flicker of hesitation. Anything that suggested she still had a soul buried beneath all that arrogance. But all I saw was satisfaction. She had wanted me to ask. Wanted me to know. Because she didn't just stop loving me. She wanted to break me. And that was when the rage finally came. I had been calm before. Too calm. The kind of calm that wasn't real. Just the empty space before something exploded. But now, the heat hit me like a wildfire. She wanted this. She wanted me to hurt. I clenched my jaw so tight it ached, staring at Madison like I didn't even recognize her. Maybe I didn't. Maybe the woman standing in front of me wasn't my wife anymore. Maybe she hadn't been for a long time. I let her name him, let her say it out loud, let her watch the realization settle in my bones. Ryan, my friend, the guy who stood next to me at our wedding, grinning like he was actually happy for me. The guy I had beers with after work, the guy I had confided in, the guy I had trusted. It had been him, all along. I exhaled sharply, pressing my fingers against the counter just to feel something solid. Ryan. I said his name like it was a foreign word, like it didn't even belong in my mouth. Madison's lips curled in the slightest smirk. She had the nerve to look amused. Surprised? She asked. You shouldn't be. I stared at her. You're unbelievable. She shrugged, crossing her arms. Come on, don't act like this is some huge shock. You two were practically attached at the hip. Maybe if you spent a little less time with him and a little more time with me, things would have been different. I almost laughed. Almost. But there was nothing funny about what she had just said. So this is my fault now? I asked. Because I worked? Because I had friends? She rolled her eyes. You just stopped being interesting, you know? Everything was routine. Same conversations. Same date nights. Same loyalty. I cut in sharply. Same respect. Same vows. Her expression flickered just for a second, like she hadn't expected me to throw her own broken promises back at her. But then, she smiled. Not an apology. Not regret. Just pure, unfiltered cruelty. I don't regret it, she said simply. Not even a little. And that was what did it. Not just the betrayal. Not just the lies. The fact that she felt nothing. I wasn't enough for her? Fine. Maybe I never had been. Maybe she had been looking for an excuse to burn everything down and Ryan had just been the most convenient match to strike. But to look me in the eye and smirk? To act like this was a game? That was the moment I knew there was nothing left to save. Something inside me shut off. I straightened, my movements slow, controlled. I took the gift box, the one she never even glanced at, and dropped it in the trash without a word. Her eyes followed the motion, but she didn't react. Then I picked up the hotel key card, turned it over once in my fingers. And then, just as casually, I tossed it to her. She caught it instinctively, confused. What the hell go? My voice was calm. Steady. Not anger. Not sadness. Just, done. Her brows furrowed. What? I gestured toward the door. You want to be with him? You already made that decision, Madison. So go. Right now. Go be with him. She hesitated. Just for a second. Like she hadn't actually expected me to call her bluff. You're serious. I nodded. Dead serious. For the first time that night, I saw it. A flicker of something in her expression. Uncertainty. She had expected me to beg, to cry, to yell, maybe even to throw something. She wanted chaos. Wanted proof that she still had some control over me. But I wasn't giving her that. I was giving her exactly what she wanted. And now she wasn't so sure she wanted it. I stepped back, crossing my arms. Clock's ticking, Madison. You don't love me, right? So why are you still standing here? Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. For the first time tonight, she had nothing to say. She didn't move. For someone so eager to throw everything away, she sure seemed hesitant now that the door was wide open. I watched her, arms still crossed, waiting. No yelling, no begging, no pleading for explanations that wouldn't matter. She had made her choice. Now she just had to commit to it. Madison shifted her weight from one foot to the other, still gripping the hotel key card. Her fingers flexed around it like she wasn't sure whether to throw it at me or run out the door with it. You're really kicking me out? She asked. I raised an eyebrow. I'm not kicking you out. I'm letting you leave. Her jaw tightened. That's the same thing. No, Madison, I said, voice dangerously calm. It's not. She let out a short, humorless laugh. Wow. So that's it, huh? 7 years and you just give up? I tilted my head. Me? I asked, genuinely curious. I gave up. She didn't answer. So I took a slow step forward, letting my words sink in. Who lied, Madison? I asked. Who snuck around? Who walked into our home at 2 in the morning with another man's smell on her skin? She flinched just slightly. You think I gave up? I scoffed. No. You did. You just weren't woman enough to admit it until I caught you. She exhaled sharply, shaking her head. You're such an ass. I laughed this time. Actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the hypocrisy of it all was so insane that I almost couldn't believe she was real. I took another step closer. Let me get this straight, I said. You cheat. You lie. You disrespect me to my face. And somehow I'm the bad guy. She opened her mouth. Closed it. I could see it, she was scrambling, trying to find a way to flip this on me. Trying to find any excuse that would make her look like the victim in a situation where she was nothing but a selfish, heartless traitor. I wasn't giving her an out. Go, I repeated. I mean, isn't that what you want? Ryan's probably waiting for you. Don't want to keep your boyfriend waiting. Her expression hardened. You don't get to be smug about this. Oh, I absolutely do. She huffed out a breath, throwing her hands up. Unbelievable. You were so, what? I cut in. So calm? So rational? So not losing my mind over a woman who clearly never deserved me in the first place. Her nostrils flared, lips pressing into a thin line. Good. She wanted chaos? She wanted me to break? Not a chance. Instead, I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and started tapping. She frowned. What are you doing? I didn't answer. Just kept typing. Sent. A second later, her phone vibrated in her hand. She glanced down at the screen, eyes scanning the message. Then she looked back up at me, realization dawning. Her voice came out slow, measured. You didn't. I smiled. I did. Because the message I had just sent was to Ryan's wife. For the first time all night, Madison panicked. I saw it, the way her grip tightened around her phone, the way her eyes darted back to mine, wide and full of something she hadn't shown me once during this entire conversation. Fear. You're a real piece of work, she breathed, her voice lower now, edged with something dangerously close to desperation. What the hell is wrong with you? I leaned back against the counter, arms crossed. Calm. Completely and utterly calm. Me? I asked. Nothing. I'm fine. But Ryan's wife? Oh, she's about to have a very bad night. Madison took a step forward, voice sharp. You had no right, I cut her off. No right? I let out a slow, humorless chuckle. That's funny coming from you. Her nostrils flared. This isn't the same thing. No? I tilted my head. You don't think she deserves to know? She didn't answer. I pushed off the counter, closing the space between us. Tell me something, Madison, if I hadn't caught you, how long were you going to keep lying? How long were you going to keep sneaking around? Would you have ever stopped? Silence. And there it was. The truth she couldn't say out loud. Because the answer was never. She never would have stopped. Not until she was caught. I exhaled sharply, shaking my head. Yeah, that's what I thought. Her fingers flexed around her phone again. I could practically see her brain racing, trying to figure out how to fix this. How to spin it. How to lie her way out of this mess like she had so many others before. I swear to God, you have no idea what you just did. She hissed. I laughed. Oh, I know exactly what I just did. And right on cue, her phone started ringing. She flinched, looked down. Ryan's wife. Her eyes flicked back up to mine, blazing with something between fury and panic. Fix this. I raised an eyebrow. Fix what? You know what? She snapped. Tell her you were wrong. Tell her you made a mistake. I smiled. I didn't. Her jaw clenched. You're such a... Careful. I cut in smoothly. You're already down a husband. Might not want to lose your boyfriend, too. The phone kept ringing. Loud. Unforgiving. She looked down at the screen again. I could practically hear her pulse racing. And then? She declined the call. Of course she did. I huffed out a laugh. Yeah, that's not suspicious at all. She shot me a glare, voice lowering. You don't understand, okay? Ryan's wife as she stopped herself. But it was too late. I had already seen the flicker of something behind her eyes. I stilled. She's what? Madison stayed quiet. I stepped closer. She's what, Madison? Her lips pressed together. But she didn't have to say it. I already knew. Ryan's wife wasn't clueless. She wasn't some naive woman with blind trust. She already suspected. And now? She had proof. I exhaled, dragging a hand down my face. Jesus Christ. Madison let out a sharp breath. This is bad. For you, I corrected. For me? This is justice. Her jaw clenched. You think this is funny? I shrugged. A little. She took a slow step forward, voice lowering. You don't know what you've done. I met her gaze. I know exactly what I've done. And right then? Her phone lit up with a text. From Ryan. 4 words. What the hell happened? And that was when I knew. This was about to get so much worse for her. Madison's fingers hovered over her phone, eyes locked on Ryan's message like she could somehow erase reality if she just didn't respond. But there was no undoing this. She had spent months sneaking around, lying to my face, laughing behind my back. She had walked through our front door at 2:34 a.m. with his scent on her skin and a smirk that told me she felt untouchable. But now she was the one unraveling. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching her like she was a live grenade that had just realized the pin was missing. "What's wrong, Madison?" I asked, voice smooth, calm. "You look stressed." She finally looked up at me, and God, I wish I could bottle that expression. Pure, unfiltered panic. "This isn't a joke," she snapped. I raised an eyebrow. "Who's joking?" She exhaled sharply, fingers tightening around her phone. "You have no idea how bad this is." "Oh no, I do," I said easily. "I just don't care." Her phone buzzed again. Another message from Ryan. "Did you say something? WTF is happening?" A slow, satisfied smile curled at the edges of my lips. "Oh, buddy, you're about to find out." Madison swallowed, her throat bobbing. Then suddenly she whipped around and started dialing. I frowned. "What are you doing?" She lifted the phone to her ear, her free hand pressing against her temple. "Fixing this." I let out a short laugh. "Fixing this? Oh, this I had to hear." She turned away from me, pacing toward the living room, shoulders hunched like she was trying to physically brace herself for the mess she had created. The call rang once. Twice. Then, "What the hell, Madison?" Ryan's voice came through the speaker, sharp, angry. I couldn't hear every word, but I didn't need to. His tone said everything. Madison's back stiffened. "Ryan, listen," he cut her off. Loud. I couldn't make out his exact words, but I caught "My wife is losing her mind and you told me this was handled." My grin widened. "Handled? Oh, this is getting better by the second." Madison turned slightly, eyes flicking to me as if I wasn't the one who had started this avalanche. Like somehow this was still my fault. She pressed a hand to her forehead. "Ryan, just calm down, okay? Let me explain." He wasn't calming down. Not even a little. Her free hand curled into a fist. "I don't know what he told her, but I can fix it, okay? I just need you to click." She blinked. Looked at her phone. Ryan had just hung up on her. A full beat of silence stretched between us. Then slowly, I tilted my head. "So, how's Ryan doing?" Madison's head snapped toward me, eyes burning. "You think this is funny?" I shrugged. "A little, yeah." She was breathing hard now, fingers digging into her temples. "You don't understand, okay? If his wife leaves him—" "Oh," I interrupted, nodding slowly. "I get it now." She froze. I smiled. "This wasn't just fun, was it?" I said. "This was security. Ryan promised you something, didn't he?" Her lips parted. And that was the confirmation I needed. I let out a slow breath, realization settling in. "Jesus. You actually thought he was gonna leave his wife for you." Her expression flickered. For just a second I saw it, the hesitation, the doubt, the tiny crack in her carefully crafted confidence. Because the truth was? Ryan had been lying to her too. Madison had burned our marriage to the ground for nothing. I let that sink in before speaking again. "So what's the plan now?" I asked. "Since Ryan's currently dealing with his actual wife and you no longer have a backup?" She said nothing. Her hands curled into fists. Her chest rose and fell in shallow breaths. For the first time all night, she looked lost. And God, it was beautiful. Madison stood there, gripping her phone like it was the only thing keeping her upright. She had no plan. That was the funniest part. She had slithered her way through this whole affair thinking she was 10 steps ahead, thinking she was untouchable, that she could juggle me and Ryan without ever getting burned. And now? Now she was standing in the middle of our home with nothing. Ryan wasn't answering. His wife was probably tearing their house apart. And me? I was just standing here, watching her crumble. She swallowed hard, then turned back to me, eyes burning with a mix of frustration and something dangerously close to desperation. "You don't get it," she said, voice low. I smirked. "Oh, I get it just fine." Her jaw clenched. "No, you don't. You think this is some victory? Some kind of revenge?" I took a slow step closer, tilting my head. "Madison, it's not revenge if you did it to yourself." Her nostrils flared. "You think you're better than me?" I let out a soft chuckle. "I know I'm better than you." She inhaled sharply through her nose. But she didn't deny it. Because she couldn't. She had cheated. Lied. Thrown away our marriage for some pathetic fantasy with a man who had zero intention of actually choosing her. And now, she was alone. I gestured toward the door. "So what now? Ryan's not answering and you don't have me to fall back on. You gonna go cry to Claire?" She stiffened. I grinned. "Oh right, you lied about that too." Her lips parted, but no words came out. She was floundering, completely and utterly out of control for the first time in this entire mess. And she hated it. I could see it. The way her fingers twitched, the way her throat bobbed as she swallowed down whatever insult she was about to throw at me. Instead, she exhaled slowly, schooling her features into something calmer, colder. "You're not as strong as you think," she murmured. I raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me?" She took a slow step closer, looking up at me through her lashes. The anger in her eyes had softened into something else, something calculated. "You're acting tough now," she said. "Acting like this doesn't hurt. But I know you, babe." I stiffened at the word. She noticed. Her lips curled into a small smirk. "You can put on this little performance all you want," she continued, voice almost soothing. "But at the end of the day, you're still going to be alone, just like me." I stared at her, and for the first time all night, I felt it. The weight, the reality, the absolute soul-crushing truth of what she had done. She had ripped my life apart, destroyed our marriage, made a fool out of me, and now, she was standing in front of me, trying to drag me down with her. I swallowed the lump in my throat and forced a chuckle. "Wow, that's sad." Her smirk twitched. I stepped back, shaking my head. "You really think I'm like you?" I asked. "That I'm gonna sit here and wallow in this mess you created?" She didn't answer. I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice. "No, Madison. I win." She scoffed. "You win? How?" I smiled. "Because you just lost everything." And right on cue, her phone buzzed again. Her eyes flicked down, expecting Ryan. But it wasn't him. Her breath caught in her throat. Because it was a message from Claire. And when Madison read it, her face turned white. Madison's entire body went still. Dead still. I watched the color drain from her face as her eyes darted across the screen, reading whatever Claire had just sent her. She swallowed once. Then again. I took a slow step forward, my voice calm, almost gentle. "Something wrong." She didn't answer. Didn't look at me. Didn't move. Just stood there, phone clutched in her trembling hands, staring at the screen like it was a live grenade. I let the silence stretch, let her sit in it. Then, casually, I added, "Let me guess, Claire just found out too?" Her lips parted slightly, like she wanted to deny it. Like she needed to deny it. But no words came out. I smirked. "Oh, Madison." I clicked my tongue. "You really thought I was just gonna tell Ryan's wife and leave it at that?" Her breath hitched. Slowly, she lifted her gaze to mine, and for the first time all night, she actually looked afraid. You told Claire?" I shrugged. "Didn't have to. She found out all on her own." It was technically true. All I did was drop a few breadcrumbs, send a few messages. Nothing direct, nothing obvious. Just enough for Claire to start putting the pieces together. And now Madison's little house of lies was collapsing from all sides. Her hands shook as she unlocked her phone, fingers fumbling over the screen, probably scrolling, looking for more messages, trying to assess the damage. But she already knew. Claire wasn't just any friend. She was her closest friend. The person she gossiped with, vented to, ran to when things went wrong. And now Madison had no one. I watched the emotions flicker across her face. Shock, anger, desperation, fear, but not regret. Never regret. Her breathing picked up, shoulders rising and falling in sharp little movements. I could almost hear the thoughts racing through her head. Fix it. Spin it. Find an excuse. Find a way to make it someone else's fault. I leaned against the counter, watching her come apart. "So," I said casually, "how's Claire doing?" Madison's head snapped up, eyes burning. "You're a bastard." I grinned. "And you're a cheater. Guess we're both learning things tonight." She snapped. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" she shouted, voice shaking. I raised an eyebrow. "Me? I didn't cheat on my husband with his best friend. I didn't lie to everyone around me. I didn't destroy every single relationship I had." I stepped closer, voice lowering. "That was you." Her breathing was ragged now, completely out of control. And for the first time ever, Madison had nothing to say. No excuses. No snark. No smug little smirk. She had finally lost. I exhaled, shaking my head. "You know what's funny?" She didn't answer. I smiled. "If you had just admitted it, just owned up to it from the start, this wouldn't be half as bad for you." I shrugged. "But you wanted to play games. So congratulations, Madison. You won." She blinked. "What? You wanted a mess?" I gestured around. "This is a mess. You wanted drama? Here it is." You wanted to destroy everything? Mission accomplished. Her hands curled into fists. You, and the best part? I cut in smoothly. I didn't have to do a damn thing. You wrecked your own life. I just sat back and watched. Her mouth opened, then closed. She was done. No fight left. No escape routes. Nowhere to run. I straightened, exhaling slowly. So, I said, are you leaving? Or do I have to call Claire myself and ask if she wants to come over? Madison flinched. Then finally, she turned toward the door. And this time, she didn't look back. The door slammed shut. And just like that, Madison was gone. No last words. No final glare. No dramatic speech about how I'd regret this. Just silence. I stood there for a moment, letting it settle. Letting the weight of the night finally press down on me. The house was still. Too still. For 7 years, she had been everywhere. Her shoes by the door, her perfume in the air, her voice filling the space. And now it was just me. I exhaled slowly, dragging a hand down my face. The rush of adrenaline, the fire of confrontation. It was all fading now, leaving something colder in its place. Not sadness, not grief, relief. I had expected to feel broken, shattered, like I had lost something. But the truth was, I hadn't lost a damn thing. She had. My phone buzzed on the counter, pulling me out of my thoughts. A message. From Claire. You okay? I let out a small breath. Not quite a laugh, but close. Claire. The same woman Madison had used as an alibi. The same friend she had lied to without hesitation. Now, she was checking in on me. I picked up my phone, hesitating for a moment. Then finally I typed back. Yeah, I think I am. And the best part? For the first time in a long time, I actually meant it.